Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle, and today we continue on our pandemic projects, which is 6 months in the making now, and yep, we're going to continue to go on this. Today's project is brought to you by Royce Union. Interestingly enough, that's the reel. But I have a suspicion, I haven't seen this reel before, but I have a suspicion that this is the bicycle manufacturer. And it wouldn't be the first time because, of course, Shimano was one of the first bicycle manufacturers that got into fishing reels when Lew's Reels asked them to start building reels for them. And then, of course, Shimano became quite synonymous with fishing reels as much as bicycles. So this is a Royce Union. It's made in Japan. It's a metal case. It's got multiple issues with it. One of them is that the bail doesn't trip. And I'm just thinking a lot of things, but this reel looks pretty darn neglected. So we're going to see what we can do with that. And the anti-reverse doesn't work. So we're going to see what's going on with that. There it goes, it did. So maybe that, well, nope, it clicks, but it doesn't engage. So we'll see what goes on with that. More importantly, this is what I call a tuition reel. This was a $5 reel. And it's simply one I'm going to take apart and find out what makes it work. Try and tune it up, see if we can repair the anti-reverse, see if we can get the bail to function, take the old line off of it, and tell people a story about it in the meantime. So let's get started. I like to get started by taking off the external pieces. While I do that, I wear a protective glove on my hand because you're never quite sure what's going to be inside these reels. And in this case, look at that. I got a lot of salting and corrosion. This would be your bail trip. It seems to be working okay. When I see something like this, the first thing I like to do is just kind of give it a good dousing of WD-40, get it all wet all over the place. Same thing with the bail assembly here, because a lot of times neglected reels, it's just that they've built up some kind of a corrosion or that. Look at that. Look at that. We got a bail that works just simply by flooding it with WD-40. So go figure, huh? Problem solved. Well, so lesson to be learned. Don't start pulling pieces off and trying to attack a bail and assuming it's a bail spring or whatever without first at least doing what I just did there. Very simple. Just a little bit of oil, and as I go to test it, this thing is smacking away like it should. We'll get in here and we'll clean this up. At some point, like I said, this is a project reel at the moment. It's not ready for prime time. It's not going out and getting sold anywhere. But I do notice that WD-40 is taking off a lot of the white gunk, whatever that white gunk may be. But I'm so happy and delighted that I have a functional bail without going crazy on this reel. Very good. All right, that's part one. Then we want to find out why that anti-reverse doesn't work. And of course, I'm assuming if the undercarriage of this and the appearance of this spool are what they are, then I'm going to guess that we've got a lot of junk inside because this is a slow turning reel. And what I'm hoping is that the click mechanism that should be stopping this, I'm hoping it's jammed with grease and that's why it's not stopping it, but let's go figure it out. I should be able to, let's see if we can take, yep, we can take the handle off. Always be gentle with these old reels. Don't go crazy trying to push things through or rip them off. Always kind of take a very cautious approach there in terms of the opportunities. Because if you break it, you're kind of done. All right, we got one screw out. That's the other issue with these older reels. This one seems nice. This one looks like it has stainless steel screws. And the size of this reel is like a Mitchell, I want to say 306 maybe. It's a little bit below the 302 sizing. Probably in that era though. 70s, 60s, 70s. And I'm not even sure where Royce Union was, whether that was an American or a British company. Just don't know. So the only thing this is suffering from on this side is lack of grease. I guess that's a good thing. We can grease that up. And then underneath here, let's go find out what's going on with that. So there you go. I think this is going to be the issue with the failure to stop the reel. We've just got all kinds of dry grease on the click ratchet where the the dog would stop. So let's do the cleanup best we can, and we'll see what can move on from there. All right, this looks like it has a pin. I'm going to put all of these into my parts tray. Those of you that watch the video know that I use the bottom of a milk jug for a parts tray. I put these pieces in here as we go attack the others. I'm going to put a little bit of WD-40 on that hardened grease there. Probably won't do much, but so long as the can is right there, we'll go ahead and do that. I believe this pin here is going to be able to be pulled out, and we should be able to release the axle shaft from the crosswind block. Lucky me. Then we should be able to pull this up. Take that out. And we're halfway to the cleaning. Very simple setup inside here, and it's a pretty clean case. If anything, this thing is failing because of lack of grease. And then we have a nut up top here. Let's see if we can find this. We can. Just need the one with the right drive. And this one you want to test too. You want to make sure that, try it the traditional way, which is kind of clockwise. In that case it worked. But if it didn't go, don't go crazy. Go ahead and try turning it the other way. This has a little set washer or lock washer underneath here, so usually that's okay. That'll give us the opportunity to clean that up a little bit more. And then we don't have a ball bearing in this one, we have a pinion shaft. And that's it, that's every piece in the reel right now. So again, I'm just going to flood the pinion gear here while I'm waiting. Clean out the back here. So this is more of a cleaning operation than anything, and hopefully that anti-reverse issue is just going to be because of the accumulated dried grease. Look at that. Most of that white stuff has come off. And while I'm at it, I know that we've got this thing working, but I'm just going to give it another shot there. The first part probably wore off as I'm looking at my table here and seeing a little puddle of grease there. So what we'll grab next is just looking for my brush. Grabbing a brush to clear the channels for the pinion gear. And some of that looks dried on, so I'm going to go ahead, grab my pick and kind of push that stuff through, because it's hardened there, and I think that's exactly what's happening with the other piece. So just take your time. I know this may be hard to see on the video here, but it needs to be done if you want to make sure that the reel gets restored properly. What can happen here is this can act like a concrete, this dried grease, and if there's supposed to be some travel in that main gear, it can be that the main gear travels low and causes a wobble or something if you don't get that grease out of there. Okay, it's kind of out of there, so I'm going to use this as a flush now. I'm just going to let it sit. Then I'm going to go over to the case and do the same thing here. This case has got an oil port here. If you just wanted to oil your reel without disassembling it, just like the older Mitchells, the 302s and the like, you could come in there and just get that set by removing that little port. We just had I believe that goes on here. Yep. There was a little washer that goes on here that got kicked off. That cleaned up nicely with that WD-40. Nice gear. Alright, we're just going to finish that with a cotton swab then. Normally it would be the opposite. You'd find this old reel and it would have all the dried grease and the like. This virtually has no dried grease. Has a little bit of grease accumulated on the crosswind block. So let's go ahead and take care of that. I'm using a paper towel. Generally speaking, if you're cleaning, the less abrasive you can get as you're doing the cleaning, the better. If you need to, you move up. You can go to a kitchen scrubby, take some of that off. You can go to steel wool after that. And I've found lately that Old toothbrushes, electric toothbrushes, provide a good amount of cleaning as well. And don't go for things like files and the like unless you absolutely have to. Okay, this is a pretty simple reel here. I want to grab that main gear now because I think that this pile of grease here is why that anti-reverse isn't taking, and it looks like we've been able to loosen that up with the WD-40. And you can see that's probably good when it was fresh, but right now it's not. And people often wonder, why did I get a chunk right there? Well, if this reel was stored, or however it was stored, it was certainly stored, gravity's going to do its work and it's going to seek the lowest point, and that was probably the lowest point, whether the reel was laying up, sitting down, whatever, and that's what's going to cause that. Okay, speaking of steel wool, I just want to buff this main gear. Just clear out any possible imperfections there. One more time through that gear set here to get the old grease out. Using a cotton swab for that. I think we're going to be able to work okay with this. Alright, so I want to grab the side plate now. There's a little bit of hardened grease on here. There's hardened grease on the dog. So back to my WD-40 as a general degreaser. I'm not using this as a lubricant. I'm using it as a general degreaser. And I can see in that track here where that dog is, that possible problem was that there's grease in that track as well. I got a little bit of wobble there, so I'm wondering that screw is tight. So I'm thinking it's possible that some of this, for some of the reason for this not working was the accumulation of that dirt and grease. We'll see. Put it back together. Just getting the last of it around there. Alright, if we flip the switch the other way, it pushes it out, pushes it in, moves nicely. While I got it out there, there's a little bit more. Okay, so we can kind of go to reinstall then. I'm going to grab the main gear, start there. Generally I have a grease brush around here. Here it is. I'm going to be using Penn Precision Real Grease. That's the blue grease. A lot of folks ask me about which one it is. It's Penn Precision Real Grease. It's available on Amazon and mysticparts.com and other places where you can get fishing reel grease. Oh, before we do that, just a quick check here. I want to make sure that the teeth are okay. In this case, there's only one or two spots here that look like they have any kind of dried grease in them. For the most part, the piece just looks totally dry. Just hit that with some degreaser as well. Yep. Okay, so we can check all the grease, all the teeth, make sure that they are uniform, that they have no chips or cracks or bends in them or tears, and you want to get the grease onto the face of the gear as well as the teeth, because the face is going to have this floating on it. Alright, main gear goes in. I'm going to grab that handle to hold the main gear. We can put a drop of oil onto that handle thread just so it doesn't seize at a later date. Crank that up, and I want to test. I'm going to put a little bit in here. That's pretty well corroded as well. I want to test this right now. I'm going to flip this over. So there you go. So now we have a backstop. So we fixed the two problems that were at issue with this reel. We had an issue with the backstop, and we had an issue with the bail release. Both of those are done now. Okay, let's go ahead and put the pinion gear back in. We'll lube this up on the bottom here. Same grease. Get a good amount of it in there so that it rides nicely. Get some on the shaft that's going to ride through the bushing. And we can put that up and in. And we can grab our rotor and put that on. And you got to get that keyway set properly. We'll take our main rotor nut. Pretty simple setup here, not a lot of moving parts. That's always nice. Simple design, but effective. Okay, now we want to grab our main axle shaft. We haven't done anything with that. Boy, nice heavy piece of metal here. You don't find that kind of stuff today. And actually, a lot of the problems that we have in today's reels are bent axle shafts. I don't think this one's going to bend. I think there'll be other things that may give way, but I don't think this one's going to bend. All right. Take our axle shaft through the pinion gear. We want to grab the crosswind block, get a little bit of grease onto the back arm of those. And we remember that the pin was on the downside of the axle. So take pictures along the way is another recommendation I do. If you didn't remember that the pin came below, well, that's your chance to go back and take a look and find out where that pin came from. You align the hole in the axle shaft with the hole for the pin. And we can place that pin in. Alright, and then this one's kind of eyeball, I'm thinking. I'm going to slide this down to the bottom. I'm going to move the stud on the main gear to the bottom. I'm going to grease that slot where that stud is going to ride. And I'm just going to load it up, and I'm fairly confident that I got it. So I'm going to seat the screws that belong there first. I'm not going to tighten them down all the way. I'm just going to tighten them to the point where I have all three started, and then I'll go back and tighten them the rest of the way. And the reason for that is that the cases don't center themselves, and if you start tightening, you may find that you're out of alignment with the one. You're going to have to go back and loosen them anyway. So we got the three started, or we will have the third started with this one. Then we can go back and tighten. Make sure to tighten, because if you're taking them out there and say you're on a boat, you got a lot of vibration that will shake it free. Let's give it a ride. Look at this reel. With a functioning bail and a clean inside. How do you like that? In a matter of what? So a reel given up for junk rides again. Second chance. All right, last thing I'm going to do is look at the top of the drag stack. It's dirty like everything else is. This is a spring. Make sure that you hold it when you take it out. A lot of accumulated dirt, because that's where the face of the reel is going to absorb all the moisture and wetness coming off the line as you reel it in. Let's go pull these out and see what we got here. So we have leather drags. We want to clean the inside of the channel. Same idea, use a degreaser, use a little cotton swab or something that you can get inside with. Make sure it's nice and clean. Because any dirt in the drag system is going to affect drag performance. There's a little bit on there. I can't tell if this is corrosion or if this is just all grease. So I'm just going to use the flat blade of a screwdriver. And it just looks like some pitting, and there's nothing you can do about pitting. So I'm just going to clean that up. I'm going to use it as a cleaner too while I'm out of here. Just get the junk out of the channels. Probably first cleaning this reel is seen in 15 or 20 years. Okay, the ball washer went in first. Then we have a series of leather washers here. The leather's still strong. It's still flexible. So I'm going to just put a little bit of Cal's Universal Drag Grease on there. And then dip it in, rub it around. Add that here. The second is a round one. The middle one is always the eared washer. Should have paid attention. You go bell washer. Bell washer is first. Flat washer is second. Then we have the leather washer. Then we have our eared washer. Make sure they're clean. Then we have our other leather washer. So this is a nice drag setup too. Then we have our top washer. We'll make sure that's clean. And then we put our spring back in. There's a groove that this spring rides in. If you have trouble getting it in the groove this way, then what you want to do is you want to go start from the back of the spring, put it in the back, and then work it to both sides. But in this case, it's there and it's fine and it's clean and it's should be something that we're ready to do. Got a little bit of dirt on the bottom here. Always discovering as we're doing these. That goes on. I'm going to strip that line, but not during this video. That old line's got to come off, and there's a little bit of salting underneath that, so we'll take care of that later. You don't need to watch me do all of that, but just want to make the button go so that we can make sure that we have a drag washer. We have a nice drag washer set up. We have a nice reel. Look at this. What a beautiful little reel. With a snappy bail, cleaned up, ready to go fishing. Boy, I hope you've enjoyed that one as much as I have. The Royce Union F85, an old timer ready to go back fishing again. So if you've enjoyed this, please like it and subscribe. If you have any questions about fishing reels in general or this one in particular, please leave them in the comments section. And if you have a reel repaired but you're not up to repairing it yourself, it needs repair or service, you can drop me a line on my email at the end of this business card. I'll give you the information on our repair services. So with that, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Thank you for watching.